Hey guys, it's me, Known Wells, creator and host of the You Me Empathy podcast. Hello, how are you? How are you? How are you? Today's episode is episode 15. I am chatting with singer-songwriter Sarah Jickling, rhymes with tickling. We talk about bipolar disorder and the crazy artist stereotype and our gifts versus disabilities. Sarah is just a wonderful person. I really connected with her and also really love her music. You should definitely go check out her music at sarahsgoodbadluck.com. Go check it out. I also want to say before we get into the show that I'm throwing a little giveaway. Sarah and her friend Amelia Butcher created this little zine called It's Okay, a Handbook for Human Beings. And I'm giving away 4 copies to you for free. And probably some other little You Me Empathy goodies as well. So go to the show notes for this episode on knownwells.com, NONWELS.com for those show notes. And enter the giveaway. You can win one of these free little zines and maybe some stickers and some other little goodies. So I'm giving away 4 of them, so check it out. Also, the last thing I'll say is do me a favor. If you haven't left a rating and review of You Me Empathy in iTunes, I would very much appreciate that you do. It would mean a lot to me, so please do that. Oh, and then the last thing I'll say is the disclaimer for the show is that the You Me Empathy podcast is for informational and or entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Okie dokie, artichokes. Enjoy this episode 15, with my guest, Sarah Jickling, on the topic of bipolar disorder. Welcome to episode 15 of You Me Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You Me Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our neuroses, our mental illnesses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire conversation and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being human. You Me Empathy is a safe place, a conversation between friends, a place to inspire the empathy and beauty in each of us. Today, in episode 15, I'm excited to welcome talented musician, candid storyteller, and wholehearted creativity dweller, Sarah Jickling. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to have you on the You Me Empathy podcast.
Cool.
Yeah. So before we get into your story and today's topic, we're going to be exploring bipolar disorder and gift versus disability and the crazy artist stereotype, all of that stuff we're going to explore today. But before we do that, like we always do at the top of the show, we're going to do just a check-in, an emotional check-in with how the week's been. So, Sarah, how has the week been for you?
Wow, I love this. It's so great. This week has been difficult. I'm not the only person in my city of Vancouver who thinks so. So, Vancouver is one of those cities that is just gray for like 9 months of the year. and we're just in this place where it's just rain, 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 and everyone's kind of feeling down. And basically everybody that I've talked to, I'm like, hey, how are you? And they're like, well, and everybody's like, yeah. I just had a new happy lamp come in yesterday, though. I ordered one online.
What is this?
A bigger one. So a happy lamp is a lamp that delivers light that is similar to sunlight, so light that will produce help your body to produce vitamin D. And I had a smaller one that was 5,000 lux, which is a measurement for light. And I researched it, and they're like, no, you got to go 10,000 lux. So I ordered it's a giant lamp. It's so big. I don't even know where to put it.
How big are we talking here? Is it like big in length or like height or like width wise?
So it kind of looks like a TV screen, like that, and that's just a light, like a light that's just like a TV screen. So you kind of put it in front of your face for an hour, half an hour to an hour, and then it's meant to cure or to treat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder.
Wow.
Lovingly known as SAD. So so I have some excitement for like my new life with this lamp, but it's definitely been a difficult winter and a difficult week, just in the terms of like darkness, total darkness. Yeah.
I'm sorry you have to, like, I mean, I can relate in terms of like I've been to locales and different countries and states that have weather like that, but I can't relate in the sense that I live in Southern California in, the LA area, and it's always sunny. So I'm sorry, for one.
That's something that I think about a lot, is like moving. What if I lived somewhere like that? And I really rely on Canada's healthcare benefits. So I don't think I could leave here just yet, but it's tough. I live in the warmest part of Canada, but unfortunately that means that it's just gray and rainy all the time. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry you're having to deal with that. Hopefully it breaks soon, and happy to hear you have this light companion in your home.
Thank you.
Sure. I've never heard of these types of lamps. That's pretty neat that they've come up with them.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. You can take way more vitamin D than the bottle tells you to as well. That's something that you kind of when you live in one of these places, everybody sort of shares tips. Like, what do you do? Like, okay. And there's a lot of controversy also because some people go tanning to tanning salons just for the vitamin D. And then, of course, other people say, well, that's really bad for your skin. And it's kind of like, that's currently something that people are kind of debating over right now in the mental health community, is like, is it okay to use tanning salons to treat seasonal affective disorder? So I'm scared. To go to one.
I think that's a healthy scare. That's a healthy fear. Because those, I think they have a bad reputation, and I don't know the science, and I don't know enough, but it seems like that seems valid. But again, I'm not a professional. But is it like a different, like the tanning beds versus like the light that you purchased? Like, is it like is it the bulb that's the difference?
I was posting online that I was thinking of trying this, and one of my songwriting teachers, who actually happens to be from LA, she moved here, so she's like, she's all over this, and she sent me a link that was from the Skin Cancer Society, and they explained that it's not the same kind of light. And so it doesn't actually help as much, but I hear a lot of anecdotes that it feels very good. But a lot of people can get addicted then as well. So she's like, "Oh, protect your beautiful skin." Like she doesn't want me to deal with sun damaged skin, so I listened to her and I just bought a new lamp.
Yeah, sun damaged skin is kind of grody, and we see it a lot here in Southern California. Just really sort of leathery skinned, people that have just been out in the sun their entire lives, and you could tell that, their skin is probably just rough as sandpaper, and it just looks terrible.
Yeah. When I do go to someplace sunny and I see those people, it's kind of like, wow, like I've never seen someone who looks like that before. It's a little exciting, but yes, I'm sure it's a terrible experience.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. As for me, my week it started off so Sarah, I've been having like a pretty chronic pain in my hip, and my low back pain has been sort of ongoing for many, many years. I just have some arthritis in my vertebra and displacement, and no, I'm not 60 years old. I'm in my mid 30s, but I think I've just treated my physical body poorly or just hard throughout the years. But anyways, I finally, I run and cycle and stuff. And so I finally went to the physical therapist, and they were able to sort of determine that I'm just my frame is a little off, and I was putting a lot more pressure on a certain muscle in my leg as opposed to my excuse me, as opposed to my my left butt cheek, essentially, my glutes. I'm sort of working through that imbalance, and they gave me some exercises to do at home, which is good. And I want to not be in pain, but at the same time, I'm just exhausted by it.
Right. It's one of those things where you got to do it every day, probably, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Or be very consistent. And yeah, I can imagine that it's difficult to manage that kind of pain. I do know, now that I am a pole dancer, I know a lot of people who have injuries, and they tell me, just it sounds like a lot to put on yourself, to have to kind of, on top of everything else you have to deal with in a day, to also, do those kind of exercises and be careful with your body.
Right.
But I'm glad that you went to, the physio, and they're like, oh, here's something that makes sense. Because I was worried you were going to say that you went there and they said that it was all in your head. And that's worse, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad that there's something you can do about it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, that's why I always have anxiety going to these places, because I've had those experiences where it's they're like, yeah, we can't figure out what's wrong with you. Just, you're just going to have to get used to it, kind of thing. We're like, okay, thanks. Mm-hmm. It's very invalidating.
Yeah, that sucks. So knowing that there's something about it, it's probably like tiresome and a lot to add to your day, is at least it makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So that's where I'm at this week. Let's talk about you, Sarah. I want to get into bipolar disorder, but I first want to just kind of talk a little bit about, or ask you about, your mental health origin story, meaning how did you get to a point where you're diagnosed with bipolar disorder? What was let's talk about maybe your youth or childhood. Were there any sort of seminal moments that were sort of impactful to who you are, or where you are with your mental health today?
Yeah, I mean, I've had anxiety disorder since forever. I mean, I had insomnia as a 4-year-old, and I had panic attacks when I was 6. This is something that has been with me forever, my anxiety disorder. And I do have mental illness in my family. So I had definitely, there was trauma there as well, just because when you have mental illness in your family, then you have adults who, maybe they need help. They need to be going to therapy, and unfortunately they're not. And then as a child, feeling those kind of adults, it can get really difficult, and those kind of experiences can shape how you think about yourself. So I grew up with a lot of anxiety, but thought patterns, I guess I would say, some negative ideas about myself and my family. There's this kind of idea that like my family is cursed, because that's kind of the viewpoint that my dad had, is that, every bad happens to us. So it kind of had like some nature and some nurture there to add to becoming this very anxious child. And I was violent when I was younger as well. Like I was just, all of these things were happening to me. But of course I didn't realize that they were different than how other people were, because when you have like family history of mental illness on both sides of your family, you're going to see a lot of that behavior in a lot of people. So I didn't really kind of deal with anything until I started experiencing the signs of bipolar disorder. So that kind of happened more when I was a teenager, maybe the early 20s, late teens. But throughout my childhood, I was having panic attacks. I was having, really dark thoughts and stuff like that. I wasn't suicidal, but I struggled with most of the things that I did. But I never went to a therapist. I never, thought anything of it other than maybe my family's curse.
Tell me a little bit about like your experience when you were a kid and you're having these panic attacks and these dark thoughts. Like what was going through your head? Like what was going through your head, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. Well, I would often have dissociative moments where I would tell my mom, I think I'm an alien. Like, I think that I feel like an alien. I feel like the only alien in the whole world of people. And I felt very distanced from myself. And the only thing I knew to do was to drink water. So this is the only thing I could figure out, was that when I felt like an alien, I needed to drink water. So I'd talk to my mom and I'd say, I'm having the alien feeling. Can you give me some water? And I would just drink as much water as I possibly could. I don't know. That was just, at the time, I just thought, that's something that I'm experiencing. And now I realize it was totally I was dissociating.
Right.
But I just felt very separate from myself and my body and the world. Another kind of panic attack that I would have would be that everything would go into slow motion. And I remember this happening a lot, and I would freak out. I would be very scared, and I would ask, again, I'd ask my mom, like, am I speaking normally? Like, what's happening? And it would go away eventually. And I would tell people that I thought I had a brain tumor. And everybody was just like fine with that, which I look back now and I'm like, you have a little kid saying that she thinks she has a brain tumor, and you're like, cool, it's okay.
How old were you when you were saying that?
Like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,
Wow. Yeah.
Like that kind of from preteen to teen. And it even happened during a test a couple of times. And then I was writing so slowly that I only finished one word of my essay. And the time was up because I felt that I was moving in slow motion. And it was so those sort of things would happen. I also had misophonia. I now know that misophonia is a thing. But basically, when I would hear certain noises, I would become just enraged. And that's, again, due to, it's a symptom of anxiety, and I've been able to get it under control. But there were certain sounds that would just make me scream. And like, I just felt like, I guess that I was a bad kid because I didn't like certain sounds. And I was like, oh, I'm such a bad kid. And sometimes I would put my fingers in my ears, especially like when people were chewing, and I get in trouble for it a lot, but it just made me want to scream. And like, and it made my skin crawl. And I, so there's certain things like that were kind of weird like that, that I didn't really know what to do with. And of course I lived in fight or flight, basically. Just, I was too shy to talk to anyone. I was afraid to watch horror movies. I was afraid to, go to a party. I was afraid to do most things. And I was also very much a perfectionist because I was afraid to do poorly in any sort of school or classical piano. So I really spent like my childhood in this kind of like afraid state. I also had nightmares every single night. I still do. So I look back on my childhood and I feel bad for little me because I didn't really know what was going on, but I felt like the world was a bad place and I was very afraid. I'm sure this is very common for most people with anxiety disorders, but you go somewhere and you immediately imagine the worst possible scenario. And you just think that's what everybody thinks. I constantly, when I was younger, I had a Fisher-Price knife from my kitchen set.
Oh, of course.
Like my play kitchen set. And I put it next to my bed in my top drawer.
Wow.
Because I was so afraid of a kidnapper coming in. And I was like, I need to protect myself. So every night when I was falling asleep, I would just like be terrified until I fell asleep, which of course leads to nightmares.
And you weren't, like you weren't like picking up that sort of these fearful images from, external stimuli necessarily. You were just kind of coming up with them on your own.
I think, we did stranger danger in school, and then after that I immediately thought everybody was a kidnapper. Like, they often say kids feel like they're invincible, so you have to like scare them. But I was the opposite. Like the second they say that, you could be in a fire, then I'm constantly thinking there's going to be a fire. I think anything that, and I did, like I said, so I had, my father often said stuff like that our family was cursed, or that, that we were cursed. So I often thought that things were going to happen to me. Like if bad things were going to happen, they were going to happen to me.
Why would he say that?
He is somebody who has mental illness as well. He does like experience a lot of, I guess, mental difficulties that make him have those same feelings. He says it because he believes it, or he believed it. And then he also had a pretty terrible childhood. My grandfather had bipolar disorder. So, these kinds of fears can get passed down. So I'm sure that throughout his life, he was told that his family was cursed, and then he just kind of passed that down. And the thing about mental illness is that it can kind of seem like a curse because you're making everything that goes wrong into a huge deal, and you totally gloss over everything that goes right. And then of course you're like, oh, our family totally is cursed. Like, oh, it rains everywhere we go. Like, it doesn't matter that we live in the city of Vancouver. Like, it's because we're cursed. That's why it rains everywhere we go. Just like seeing the negative, I guess.
Yeah. And we're like, what? So it sounds like, obviously from your father, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for support there because he was, obviously dealing with his own struggles. What about from your mother?
And I actually have bipolar on both sides of my family. Okay. So she came from a family of mental illness as well. So she, I don't, I don't know that she believed that we were cursed or anything, but um, I, the thing about my mom is that I think she has, she doesn't believe in herself very much, and that's probably to do with her childhood as well. So I had kind of two parents that didn't believe in themselves, and they that so then when you have parents that don't believe in themselves, then it's really hard for you to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they are both struggling with their own things, and so of course that helps. That helps create that idea that things are always going to go wrong if you have two parents who are have different levels of fear all the time, and who do point out the negatives quite often.
Yeah, that's what you're.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're surrounded by. That's what you're learning. That's what you realize is the norm.
Yeah, and so like, I'm going to write music about my family. I've decided to write my next album about my family, actually, because I do feel like it was such a huge, like, the way that we thought was just, it's still in me. Like, it's something that you can't just take medication and have it leave you. And so, I definitely don't blame them for all of the things that they did to me, especially because, of who their parents were, especially my grandfather, who had bipolar disorder. But it's something that I'm trying to talk more about, but I also want to be kind of respectful to them, because I know, that they are struggling, and they were struggling, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it is hard. Like, I'm struggling with this myself in my family, and that, obviously recognizing certain areas where family members, parents were, not healthy, were not good for you, weren't there for you, weren't, emotionally manipulated you. I certainly had that in my family in some areas, but on the same token, recognizing that, like you're saying, like, oh, they had some struggles, they were going through some things. So, like, having a bit of that respect and empathy, I think is an important part of it, and I think you have a good perspective there.
Yeah, I've actually, so for Christmas, I gave them both do-it-yourself memoirs, and I said to them, I wrote on it assignment, and I said
amazing.
To both of them, that I'm writing an album about our family, and if you want to be represented fairly, you're going to fill this out and give it to me for my birthday. So my birthday is in the end of March, and I just, I know they don't want me to write an album about our family, but I have to. I just have to.
Yeah.
So I said, I don't know a lot about their childhood, so I'd love to represent their side of the story as accurately as I can. So we'll see if they fill those out.
Yeah, that's an amazing idea. I love that. Do you think that they will, be transparent and honest with themselves?
I really, really hope so.
Yeah.
I'm kind of scared to release this album. I mean, I played one of the first songs for my sister, and she said, "You're going to get kicked out of the family." And I was like, okay. But, it's right now what's going on in my family is that I have other cousins and stuff who are struggling with mental illness. And as open as I am about talking about it, the rest of my family isn't. And so I feel like we gotta talk about this stuff, because I have family members who are struggling, and they don't. It feels like we're trying to keep it a secret, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Especially male family members.
Yes.
It's okay for me to be the artsy one who, like, is the black sheep or whatever, is the person who's struggling. But the truth is that so many of my cousins are struggling, and
yes.
so what I'm hoping to do with my next album is to sort of like say no more secrets in this family, no more secrets.
And that's so powerful. I think what you're doing is really courageous and so important. And you're right. Like, if we're not talking about it, how, like, I'm sure it's it's very therapeutic for you. It's very therapeutic for me to have this podcast. I think it's, if you don't do that, if you don't make this music, people in your family, people who listen to it aren't given that opportunity to relate and to say, oh shit, I am not alone in this, and this person is capturing my sort of emotional state perfectly in a way that I never could have imagined. And I think that is such a powerful, moving thing.
Yeah, and that's just like one benefit of writing music, because like you said, it's very therapeutic. And I was just having so many kind of nightmares recently about my childhood, and I didn't know what to do. And then my friends were like, why don't you write songs about it? And it was just such a weird thing, because I'm like, no, I can't talk about this. But I've spent the past few years talking about things that I thought I couldn't talk about, so why not keep pushing that?
Yeah, I commend you wholeheartedly. That's so, I would just say keep it up, because it's important. It's really, really important.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I definitely want to talk about your music, but I want to sort of circle back to, I guess, to, you had you had a very challenging, traumatic childhood by what you're describing. And I'm curious as to at what point were you sort of aware of that sort of being this is not right. And then, from there, like, maybe at what point were you starting to realize, like, okay, I need to seek some therapy. I need to sort of explore this a bit more.
Well, I didn't realize it wasn't right until I'd already been in therapy, and I started talking about what had happened in my childhood, and my therapists were like, wait up, what did you just say? Yeah. So it didn't really happen in that order. So basically what happened was, anxiety is something that is you can be very high functioning as an anxious person. And I got good grades and, did the classical piano competitions and got, awards in them. And I did, the best that I could. But once I started experiencing the first signs of bipolar disorder, things kind of fell apart. So the first people who noticed this were my friends. So I started a band with my best friend in high school. We were just two shy little girls who put our music on the internet, and suddenly people liked it. So we made some more. And so my friend started noticing that, I guess, that I was just going into these like depressive kind of states. And she started mentioning it, and she also kind of started to hear some stories about my family. And she's kind of the first person who was like, maybe you should get some help. But of course I didn't. It took me a lot of convincing to get any help. And basically what had to happen was, it was the first time that I was in a relationship, I ended up losing my boyfriend and my friends and just everybody in my life, because of how far I let the bipolar go. So I was suicidal. I would show up for band practice and I would just lie on the floor. Like, I was too tired to do anything. I would just kind of curl up in a ball. And my band members were like, who are you? Like, what is this? What's happening? I eventually I graduated from high school, and then I started university, and I dropped out immediately. I just stayed in bed a lot of the time. And then I would also kind of act like that never happened and show up and like have 10 songs written and be like, we're going to be famous and I'm going to be the next Taylor Swift and we're going to do this. And, so now I look back and I see what was going on. But at the time it seemed like chaos to me and to my friends and to my partner. So I just, and so from there I went to a therapist because my friend said, I don't actually want to see you anymore until you see a therapist. So I had to get to that point where I'd already lost my boyfriend and my friend was like, you have to get help. Like, I can't be your friend anymore until you get help. So it really had to get to that point. From there, I went to a therapist. That was then, that was the beginning of the journey to discover what's going on. But that's kind of when I first had a therapist say, sounds like you have some healing to do from your childhood. But it took me basically breaking down and losing everyone before I went and got help. And then I discovered that maybe stuff in my childhood had an effect on me. So it took me like a really long time to figure it out, basically.
And I first just want to say I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I mean, trying experience. But I feel like that is almost that's kind of common in terms of like having, going through a sort of traumatic experience, being in it. It's so hard to find the perspective, even if we have people we love in our lives telling us that we need to get help or what have you. I know that I was in a dark state in my late teens and early 20s, and I almost died. And it took kind of like that moment to realize, like the doctor said, your heart is going to stop. And I said, oh, okay, that's, but like, I think for a number of years, and I wonder if you can relate to this, for a number of years after that, I was hard on myself. I had a lot of self-shame because it took me, quote unquote, too long to figure it out. But there's no too long,
Yeah. Well, I had to be diagnosed with bipolar 3 times before I finally was like, okay, I guess you're right or whatever. Like, so I definitely I ran from it and I ran from it.
Why do you think you ran from it?
I know that I ran from it because I looked it up and it was a chronic disorder that never goes away.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get better. And I wanted my life to be good. So if it turns out that what I have is bipolar disorder and that's something that you have to live with for your whole life and potentially be on medication for your whole life, I was like, no way. Yeah. This can't be real. Yeah. This can't be my life. And I didn't feel crazy. That's another thing. I didn't feel crazy. I just felt either sad or excited, or I felt a million things, but none of them seemed like crazy. Things seemed like what I thought crazy was, especially when you hear the word like bipolar disorder. Like, I didn't know what that was. Even now, I think people know way more about bipolar disorder than I did at the time. Like, the first time I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, the doctor was like, Catherine Zeta-Jones has it. I was like, the lady from Zorro? Like, I don't know. Who's that? Like, and that's all. Like, the doctor didn't even really explain what it was. So that was some
That's
bad
bizarre. Yeah.
Why
would they bring up Catherine Zeta-Jones? To try to make you feel like less.
Yeah.
What?
To be like, it's not, you're not crazy because this actress also has
famous
it.
actress.
So it's not, so it's not scary because this actress has it. And I was like, that doesn't mean anything to me. But,
right.
And so of course I was like that after that first time, the first time I was diagnosed with that, the doctor, it was a general practitioner, and she put me on a wait list to see a psychiatrist, and she gave me some Seroquel and was like, okay, like, good luck. And then I immediately like took all the Seroquel, just wanted to die. Like I didn't, that was when I was 18, 19
Mm-hmm.
and, and, um, and then never took any again. And I canceled the appointment with the psychiatrist as soon as I felt better
So
because I was
you
like, there's
were,
nothing wrong with
yeah,
me.
you were trying to kill yourself?
Yeah, from the age of 19. Yeah, I was. Um, and at that time I called the crisis line. I remember, and that was the last time I called the crisis line because I was like, these people are terrible. The person who on the other end was so not helpful because I was having like kind of like seizures, and I was talking to the person on the crisis line, and they're like, how much did you take? And I said, well, this is how much I took. And they're like, well, you're gonna be fine. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And they were kind of
and
ready to end the conversation?
yeah. Yeah, and like now now I'm friends with people who work for the crisis line, and they're like, that shouldn't have happened. And of course, it shouldn't have happened that my doctor just gave me Seroquel without telling me what was going to happen, and shouldn't have diagnosed me with bipolar disorder without fully explaining it. But that's what happened. So
Mm.
I just had some bad experiences with some professionals at that time, and then the therapist that I was seeing at that time was like, you don't seem bipolar to me, you're fine. And so, yeah, I acted as if that never happened. And I continued on, but of course bipolar was going to come back, but I didn't, I thought that after that first time that it was just a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that, you're experiencing these symptoms, which were at the time bipolar disorder, but you felt as though, these are just my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
What now, before, talk about like what's changed in your perspective from that thinking to where you are maybe now after you've been diagnosed and have a little bit more perspective on the illness.
Yeah, well, number one thing is that you shouldn't have to go through life feeling suicidal. And that's something that people who are looking for help come to me now, which is great. And I'll ask them, are you feeling suicidal? And they'll say, well, yeah, as if it's like something that everybody experiences. And I'm like, no,
Right.
like the human body should not want to kill itself. That doesn't make sense. And that means that there's something wrong. So, I mean, the second that I started planning ways to kill myself, that's like red flag going up. But I mean, at the time I was listening to music that was written by people who were suicidal that was about wanting to kill yourself because it's romanticized in music. I think it is. And it's not romantic at all, but I was just kind of under the impression that this is what happens when you have like a broken heart and you have, your things aren't working out the way you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. What I would have what I noticed is that, okay, that's depression. You need to get some help there. And then the next thing that I would have pointed out to that seems very obvious to me as a symptom of bipolar disorder is hypomania. So hypomania, it's not quite mania. There's no psychosis usually involved in that, but basically I would not sleep for like a week. I could go without sleep for a week, and that shouldn't really be possible either.
Right.
So that's kind of like a sign where I was like, well, lots of people just don't sleep. Again, I can even like point to music lyrics like sleep is for the weak. Like, Arcade Fire is writing about how they don't sleep. So I don't sleep and it's fine. That's just what it's like to be 19 and a musician. So that's another thing that I would definitely that I see. Okay, I wasn't sleeping at all during those periods, and they happened to be the periods where also I was writing a lot of music and I had really lofty goals and and a lot of things like that and I did some things that were maybe more risky. Like I signed a lot of contracts without reading them. I got involved with some people who I normally wouldn't have, and then I ended up losing all of my friends. So I can definitely look back and see the patterns of depression and hypomania. And that I have rapid cycling bipolar disorder, so it was definitely very obvious to other people that I was not being consistent, that I would change. But I have what I'm sure lots of people with mental illness also experience, like emotional amnesia. Basically, like when I was in one state, I could never remember being in another state. So at the time, I just felt like I'm always like this. I'm always like this. Whatever I'm like, I'm always like this. But yeah, now I look back and I think like, nope, I was all over the place.
Yeah. Talk to me a bit about the sort of the artist stereotype. You had mentioned on a couple occasions in our chat about, the romanticization of sort of mental illness in sort of musicians and songwriters. I know that, I'm sometimes drawn to like writers themselves who sort of romanticize it, but it is a pretty damaging thing when it comes to the awareness of mental health and stigma of it. What can you talk to me about, like your experience with that?
Yeah. It was really an external thing, actually, that other people would see that I could write music really fast. I could write a lot of songs. They liked it. They liked my music. And they would tell me like, well, whatever's wrong with your head, it's working. Like, so I would get it from other people being like, you're an artist and this is like a difficult time, but look at all the music you're writing and like look at how well your career is going. Because at that time, my career was better than it's ever been, and like I was getting articles written about me from around the world. It had like a viral video, and like things were exciting. Things were really exciting. So I thought, okay, it makes sense, like that all of this stuff is happening, and then of course I'm looking at artists, like I'm saying, listening to songs and listening to artists who are alcoholics, who are depressed, who don't sleep. They write songs about it, and then I hear that and I think, okay, well, check, I'm an artist too. And so a lot of different things kind of confirmed this idea that artists are like part of the superpower of being an artist, like comes along with pain, like just so much pain.
Yeah.
And there's also this idea, specifically with bipolar disorder, that it's a gift. And I first read about it, weirdly enough, in an Oprah magazine.
Okay.
There's the Icarus Project, I believe it's called, and it's a group of people who believe that creativity and bipolar disorder are very connected, and they, think that the way we look at bipolar disorder in this world is wrong, which is, I agree in some cases for sure, that we look at it, that the world could change rather than having to change people with bipolar disorder. It's a good sentiment, but I think a lot of people take it to the point where it's like, God has given me a superpower. And my superpower is that I never sleep, but I make so much art. So it's actually like a big community of people who think this. So I ran into it a lot, that this is something that you are given, a mental illness that comes along with creative powers. And especially if you're feeling hypomanic or manic, it's so easy to buy into.
Right.
Like, sure, I have superpowers. Like, yeah, I can definitely like it feels magical to write in those states because you like basically black out and wake up with a song. It feels kind of magical. And so I totally bought into it and thought that my mental illness and my creativity were linked. And so basically when I finally decided to go on all the meds and get help from a psychiatrist, it was at the point where I said, I don't care if I ever write another song.
Mm-hmm.
I was ready for my creativity to go away. I was like, this has destroyed my life so much, and I would rather be alive than be an artist. So, yeah.
It's powerful stuff. And I think it's really important to highlight because, you know, let's put it just like on a simple level, you know, us sort of creative types, writers, artists, etc. We do have worries about how medication will affect us, right? There's always that concern, like, oh, is it gonna, like, I'm going through that process now myself, and I have worries that it'll affect how I'm creative in my day job, writing and stuff like that. But it's a I think a pretty damaging perspective because, well, one, it's not giving us, well, in your case, in your example, you're struggling, right? You're struggling with your bipolar, and that behavior is being validated by the people around you. And you're feeling pressure to be manic, to be like sort of tortured, to be quote unquote crazy in order to make art. And I think that is a very damaging thing. And I'm glad you bring it up because there's still a lot of that. And the more we can, I think, recognize that there are ways to still be wonderfully creative and wonderfully magical and do the things that we want to do in life, but do them like in ways where we're treating ourselves, we're caring for ourselves in the way that we really need to.
Absolutely. This is something that's huge for me as well. Just like after I went on medication, I didn't write a song for 2 years. I did write. Like, I also like to write blog posts, and, you know, I worked on a musical with my friend and stuff like that. But I didn't write one of my own songs because I thought I couldn't, and also because I'm used to writing those type of songs in a place of pain and in a hypomanic state. So I didn't know how to write. And so basically I had to kind of reteach myself how to write. And one really helpful thing was from my friend, Amelia Butcher. She's a ceramicist, and she was talking about flow. So the idea of being very present while creating art, because I was very absent when I was creating music. Like I said, I felt like I passed out and woke up with a song. So it's kind of the opposite of flow when you're very present and in the moment and creating. And so she was, you know, suggesting I just need to get to that place where I can be very present while I'm creating. And I really liked that idea. And also, there was a couple other things that I had to get over. I had to allow myself, because when you're present, you have the voice in your head saying this is wrong. Basically, what happens when you are hypomanic or manic or you're on drugs is when you're creating, the voice that's saying, oh, this is bad, is gone. So it's very, very easy to write. Right. But when you're present, you have all of your doubts with you. So learning how to be like, it doesn't matter if this is bad, I'm just going to create. That was huge, because when you're in a state where you're like, I'm a really good writer and I write songs that are going to maybe be famous and things are going to be awesome. Like, of course, it's going to be easier to write than being like, I don't think I can write anymore. I think, my superpower is gone. And then everything you write, you're like, that's no good.
Yeah.
So I had to get in that place of like, it doesn't matter what I write. Also, I was writing blog posts and stuff the entire time. So I had to remind myself like, that's creative as well.
Absolutely.
And so also like I started doing some visual art. Like I tried to trick my brain into being creative. So I'm like, okay, look at that. You were creative and you thought you couldn't be creative now that you're on medication. And I eventually just ended up it felt like forcing myself, but I did write some songs and kind of just like breaking that seal where you're like, okay, I'm back into writing and it's not going to be the same. It's never going to feel like it felt when I was unmedicated, but I'm doing a new thing now. And so that's the mindset that I've had to be in because and ultimately that's a good mindset because say I do get signed by a record label and they say, write me 10 songs. I can't be like, well, no, because I'm in a depressive state. So we have to wait until I go back to hypomania. Like I have to write 10 songs. Like I have to be able to do that and keep a job and be a responsible person. If I was still unmedicated, maybe I could write songs easier, but I could not be a musician.
Right.
Because musicians also have to show up and they have to like, answer emails and like do things that other people ask them to. So it's kind of useless to be able to write good songs, but not to be able to perform them or share them with anybody.
Totally. Yeah. And I think you mentioned like the idea of superpowers and I think I feel a little bit empathetic to that perspective because I do understand why it can get to that point. Like I understand, if I'm feeling so affected by my mental illness and wanting to take that on as that sort of like companion, now it is my superpower and I'm going to use it. And I totally understand that. Like I think that's a understandable coping mechanism. But I'm so happy to hear that you've found another perspective and are now like, again, creating beautiful music.
Yeah, I think that maybe in the right hands, that superpower coping tool could be helpful to somebody, was not helpful to me. So I am writing now and I'm going to release more music and I kind of got back on my feet because when I finally decided, okay, I'm going to get treatment for this stuff, it got to the point where I couldn't do anything anymore. So I was in a band. We were called the Oh Wells. And that band broke up and I had to cancel a cross Canada tour that I planned and just like be on medicine and like go through all of the different side effects and do all the like trial and error. So I have proof that if I'm not medicated, I cannot be a musician because I cannot tour. I can't show up to practice and be sure that I'm going to be able to perform and stuff like that. So I stopped being a musician. I basically was a full-time patient where I was going on different medications and then slowly eased myself back into being an artist. And it's a lot better now. I feel a lot more in control. And there's some things that I just have to let go of. But yeah, I'm very grateful that I've learned how to be creative again.
That's awesome. What do you mind? I was going to ask what medication you're on. Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah. So I'm on Seroquel, lamotrigine, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, and clonazepam.
Okay.
Yeah. So I take medication for both bipolar disorder and anxiety disorder.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so it took me quite a while to get to that concoction. I've been on just so many medications. I mean, over the years, I'd go on and off medications because I would be constantly being diagnosed as, okay, I would go to a walk-in clinic when I was feeling depressed, be diagnosed with depression, being put on an SSRI without a mood stabilizer, which would just make things worse. And then I would come back and I would be all like uptight and anxious, and they would diagnose me with anxiety. And then I would come back and someone would diagnose me with bipolar disorder. But I mean, there was no, like in British Columbia, they are just now digitizing medical records. So people were not even sharing the information with each other. And I was constantly being diagnosed with different things, borderline personality disorder, like just OCD. Like there was no consistency because I didn't have a doctor, and I was constantly being put on wait lists and then taking myself off of them when I felt better. And just so it just took me so long. I had to go to the hospital basically and just like be put right through to a psychiatrist. That was the only way that I could finally get on track and have a psychiatrist help me get on the medication. And then even then I had to be transferred to 3 different psychiatrists because they kept closing down clinics here. And so finally I'm with a psychiatrist I really like and a counselor I really like, but man, it took me a long time to get here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people can empathize with the sort of the time it takes rather to get to a somewhat stable place, because I know that many people I've talked to and friends and whatnot, just the constant sort of take a little bit of this. Oh, let's try this. Oh, we need to go down here on this. It's like it's such a it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. I totally don't blame anybody who's done it and given up after a year or whatever, because it took me more than a year. Wow. And like the thing I like to imagine it's because I'm a musician, I guess, but as a big mixing board where they're like, add some more drums. Oh, no, that's way too much drums. Take it down. Like, oh, let's add some cymbals. Oh, that sounds terrible. We have to get off it. Like when I was on lithium, my kidneys stopped working or something like that. Like, and it spent so long, adding a little more lithium to get up to the therapeutic dosage. And then when I got there, they're like, we have to get you off immediately. Like your body is shutting down. And that happens so many different times where you get up, it would take so long to get up to what they would call the therapeutic dose. And then they'd be like, oh, turns out it doesn't work. Turns out this is really bad for you. We have to get you off it. And then slowly you get off it. And then you have to add something else. And you have to add everything separately so they know what's working and what isn't. And it's terrible. So when I do help people discover that they have bipolar disorder and I like point them in the right direction, I hope that they don't give up. And the reason why I didn't give up after so long is because I have family members who didn't get treatment, and I see what it does to a family.
Yeah.
And so I know that I need to get treatment, but I totally understand if somebody else gives up, because it's a long process. And I'm hoping that because psychiatry is like kind of a fairly new medical science compared to all of the other things, because it's been a taboo for so long, that, even in like 10, 20, 30 years, that the medication will be better than it is now. So I'm hoping that it will get better for people to have to deal with this stuff. But right now it's a horrible ride.
Yeah, I think it will get better. I think, just stigma is being challenged, and I think people are becoming a little bit more aware year by year. That's my hope, at least, and that's anecdotal evidence, but that's just what I've experienced. Tell me a little bit about, I think you mentioned a couple times how people reach out to you for just some guidance and sort of your experience and just to chat about their experience with bipolar or mental health. Like, tell me a little bit about that and what that feels like to you. And maybe I'm also curious about how, this new Sarah how that has sort of impacted your relationship with your friends and your family.
Yeah. So one thing that has been amazing for me is I have a job now where I work with the BC Schizophrenia Society, and I go to high schools. I play my music. I tell part of my story, and we educate on psychosis. And then at the end of the performance, I'll have high school students come up to me and tell me what's going on with them, or I'll have people message me after the show. They don't feel comfortable coming up and talk to me, so I get to talk to people all the time. Like, we go on tours around British Columbia because it's a really big province, and so we go everywhere. And so I have this opportunity to, like, basically say what I wish someone had said to me in high school when I didn't know what was going on. And so a lot of times when I go to the high schools, like, people will come up to me and be like, I didn't realize that this was a problem until this very moment.
Wow.
And that feels so good. So I'm so happy that I get to do that as a job. Like, I can't believe it. Also, I've started, I talk about mental illness enough publicly. And I've been fortunate enough to be on the CBC and talk about it, that that people reach out to me, like people who know me, or who they know somebody who knows me, or maybe that they went to high school with me and they haven't talked to me in 10 years, but they are like, hey, let's talk about this. And so people feel comfortable enough to share with me because I share publicly. And I'm just so willing to help anyone, because I have done that to other people. Like, right. I definitely reached out to people who I knew were comfortable talking about this stuff, and asked them for help. Definitely, like, I had a boss, actually two of my bosses had bipolar disorder, which is so lucky for me somehow, because I ended up working in coffee shops with these people who helped me so much. And I just quite a few people I've worked with in the coffee shop industry were people who were open enough to tell me that what was going on with them, and then I asked them for help. So I kind of see it as, like, of course I'm going to help other people because, people help me, and I do my best. And it was such a, like, trial and error process, and I did so many things, like, what I consider to be, like, I tried the wrong thing so many times that I try to kind of streamline it. So if somebody asks me, I'm like, this is what worked for me. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee it's going to work for the other person, but I'm very glad that I can help out. Like, I love it. I love being able to share that information. And because I write songs about it, I have strangers reaching out to me too, which is, I just love helping other people and, like, talking about it. 'Cause also it reminds me that I'm not alone.
Yes.
It's not like not a totally selfless thing. Like, it really does help me to be like, this is something that a lot of people are dealing with.
Yeah. It's so amazing to hear. It's, I can't imagine the impact. I mean, such a huge impact on high school age students who, I'd imagine, like, I know, like, me as a high school age student, not, like, being very sensitive and very, like, quiet and not wanting to, if I was struggling, didn't have the opportunity to do so at home. So having that
Right.
opportunity to hear someone's story and relate is one of the most powerful things. It's about connection, right? Like, we're connecting to each other and we're, like, realizing, oh yes, we're not alone. That person has gone through this thing and they've learned some amazing things through that experience, and I get to listen to that and take it into my own life. That's such a great thing.
And the reason why I do it is because of the comedian Maria Bamford.
Oh yeah.
So
I love her.
She's the best. And so when I was, when I was struggling with accepting this fact that I have bipolar disorder, like I told you, I didn't want to accept it. And I heard her talk about it, like, in her comedy. It was okay. She was saying it out loud on stage in front of a bunch of people. and she's laughing about it, and it was okay. And so she is the reason, I think, why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I got help finally and accepted it. And so now when I write my music, like it's very important to me to think about, like, I mean, if you're just writing music for the sake of writing music, which is some people's deal, and it's totally great. I cannot be motivated by that because the music industry is such a hard place to be in, and you just get shut down and shut down and shut down. So I have this added kind of thing where I also feel like I got to share my stuff because Maria Bamford shared her experiences, and that's why I got help. And this is like a chain thing where we pass it on.
Yeah, that's a beautiful perspective, I think. And I think a great lesson for the listeners, and that, like, you know, share your story. You're gonna reach someone who's had a similar experience and doesn't know where to go.
Yeah. Oh, my alarm is going off because I have to take my clonazepam. Sorry, I'm just gonna turn this off.
Well, I don't want to keep you from your medication.
Yeah, no,
You want to take a quick, just a couple minute break? We're pretty close to wrapping up.
You know what? It's definitely not like an exact science. When I take this thing, I just want to make sure that my phone stops making noise.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I leave reminders on my phone constantly for things because I'm always forgetting everything.
I know. I also have reminders for when I eat as well. And my band always makes fun of me because, like, we tour around and I have to remember to turn off all my alarms when we perform in schools. Otherwise, my alarm is going to go off during the show.
Oh, sure.
So
yeah.
I really have to, like, juggle whether or not my alarms are going off, because if they don't go off, I won't eat.
Yeah.
I won't eat myself. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I want to start sort of winding down, but I'm just so I want to make sure the listeners, definitely go and listen to your music, because it is on one level just really, really good music. You know, you're very talented, and I love it. I have a penchant for just talented lyricists, especially female lyricists and female vocalists, and so I want to make sure people know where to find you there. But before we get there, we always sort of wrap up the show talking about our empathy heroes, and this is a segment where we just talk about someone in our lives. Someone we know, someone we don't know, could be fiction, could be real, doesn't matter. Just someone who we feel has impacted us or has impacted others in terms of just being an empathetic human being. So any one or two people, or however many people you want to call out as empathy heroes?
Yes. I have one friend who has stuck with me throughout all of this. Like I said, during so many of my, a lot of moments in my mental health journey, I guess, I lost people who were like, I've had it, I can't deal with you. But I've had this one friend who's been there the whole time. She has called the police on me to make sure that I am not overdosing. That's a hard thing to do as a friend. She has come over to my house and given me, like, packages of soup to make sure I'm eating. She has now illustrated my self-care zine. So we wrote a little booklet together about self-care, which is my favorite thing in the world now, self-care. And she's illustrated it. She's an amazing artist. Her name is Amelia Butcher. And she is just the most empathetic person you'll ever meet. She has so much patience for everyone and so much kindness for everyone. And her art is beautiful. So if you look her up online, she's part of the ceramic group, the Dusty Babes. And she is so cool, and she makes such amazing art, and we got to make this thing together that's super cool. It's a zine called It's Okay, a handbook for human beings. And you can order it off my website. I didn't mean for that to be a plug, but
No, it's fine.
We did this together. And so she's definitely, I'd say, my biggest empathy hero. Because often I feel bad because I'm saying, all my friends left me, all this stuff happened, but she did not. She stuck with me, and she's been through it all. And I've seen her treat other people with such kindness and respect. And like, whenever I'm not sure about something, I call her and ask her because I just trust everything that she thinks so much. Yeah.
Well, she sounds amazing. But
yeah, she's amazing. And then I guess I just want to, I already mentioned her, but Maria Bamford is another one of my empathy heroes, because like, if you ever watch her show, Lady Dynamite, you'll just see how, like, she just wants everyone to be okay. She cares so much about everybody. But she's also a very awkward and strange person, like I am. And I think that she's so brave for putting everything out there. And I was recently I go to a group therapy, DBT group, dialectical behavioral therapy. And so we brought up Maria Bamford in the group, and everyone was like so excited to talk about her show, because they're like, she's like us.
Oh.
Like, it's somebody like us in a TV show. And, we're all like, people are saying like, okay, so if someone ever is like, what's it like dealing with this stuff, you just point them to watch that show. So Maria Bamford is my other empathy hero.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Maria Bamford, and Lady Dynamite is pretty special. And I'll make sure to link all that stuff, Amelia's website and stuff in the show notes. My empathy hero this week is a writer, Janice Galloway, who is a Scottish writer who wrote a book. Her first book was called The Trick is to Keep Breathing. And it's a book that I read during sort of a really dark period in my life. I was studying abroad in Swansea, Wales, and I took a Scottish literature class, and I read this book, The Trick is to Keep Breathing. And I was so blown away by it. The main character is someone who struggles with, paranoid schizophrenia, and has an eating disorder, and is just a really powerful character. And it's a book that I think about, even though I haven't read it since that time, which would have been 2002. It's a book that I think about often because it made a huge impact on me. And so Janice Galloway in her book, The Trick is to Keep Breathing, is my empathy hero. And I'm just going to list or mention a quote from it real quick. It says, quote, "No matter how often I think I can't stand anymore, I always do. There is no alternative. I don't fall. I don't foam at the mouth, faint, collapse, or die. It's the same for all of us. You can't get out of the inside of your own head. Something keeps you going. Something always does." It's just, it's amazing like how art can make us feel less alone. And that book definitely did it for me. So Janice Galloway, you're my empathy hero. It's as though like she's listening to this podcast, but I don't care. I'm gonna assume that she is.
Yes.
Okay, so Sarah, why don't you tell the listeners? I really want the listeners to listen to all of your amazing music, and connect with you, and all that. Where can they connect with you and listen to your music?
Yeah, so my name is Sarah Jickling. I'm guessing if you are listening to the podcast, you can see it written out, but I like to tell people it rhymes with tickling or pickling, 'cause that might stick in your head. So if you look me up, fortunately, there's not very many of us, so I will be one of the first people who pops up. So on my website is sarahsgoodbadluck.com, and I write blog posts and I post my music there, and I might post interviews that I do there and stuff like that. And then you can find me on like Spotify and stuff like that under Sarah Jickling and Her Good Bad Luck. And then I'm on Instagram, sarah.jickling. But my main thing is Sarah Jickling and Her Good Bad Luck. And you can follow me and find me wherever music is found. And if you are interested in the zine that I made with Amelia, it's on my website too.
Yes, I'm definitely interested, and I actually want to buy a few copies and maybe give to some listeners. So
that would be awesome.
Yeah, stay tuned for that, guys. And well, Sarah, it's been a delight. I really enjoyed listening to your story and just love chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you. You're a wonderful person to talk to.
Oh, good.
I really enjoyed this.
That makes me feel so good because I always have anxiety before every show, before every recording, and it just feels, it makes me feel a little bit better to hear that, oh, I'm not too terrible at this.
No, you're really good at it.
Oh,
keep doing it.
Thank you. Well, for you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.